Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, brand new podcast episode. And today we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, my sister, Brooke Deanne. And just to tell you a little bit about Brooke, she is a trauma healing mentor, rapid transformational therapist, and NLP practitioner, empowering female survivors of abuse and trauma to reclaim their lives by rewriting their stories via a holistic approach to access new levels of mind, body, and spirit integration. After overcoming her history of abuse as an ex-Jehovah's Witness and toxic relationships, Brooke brings profound insight to her work and as an advocate against religious abuse and domestic violence. She is the author of The Grief Monster, a trusted resource in therapy offices and hospitals to help children process loss and shattered, broken, and beautiful. Losing My Religion and Finding Faith, a transformative memoir exploring her healing journey from a religious cult and abusive relationship. Brooke also hosts the Cult Diaries podcast. So thank you so much, Brooke, for being on my podcast show. We're going to be talking about how Brooke went from shattered to beautiful. She reclaimed her life, and she's going to talk about her healing after abuse and religious trauma. So, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here and be able to have these conversations and really say my story, but also just to share the message of like there's hope and that there's possibility, right? So much possibility that we just sometimes haven't tapped into.
Exactly. And I agree. Absolutely agree with you. It's so important, especially in these times that we live in today. So, can you take us back to a moment you knew you had to break free from the abuse and the trauma in your life?
Yes, of course. I think it really began, I like to call it like I've had several awakenings in my life. And the first awakening was that I was even in an abusive relationship to begin with. It began with having a very, a kind of a narcissistic friendship. And that was in the religion that I was in. And I started to kind of do my own research on what that was even like, being in a relationship where there was a jealous person, where they were kind of controlling, where they were manipulative. And that's when I did this really big deep dive into narcissism. And I didn't even realize, honestly, I'd heard the word before, but it really wasn't on my radar, right? I didn't really understand it or know what it was about. And so as I did that and I got very knowledgeable about it, I started to see how I was in that type of relationship and that type of marriage. And that was like the epiphany for me to be like, oh my gosh. So this is what I've been experiencing these past 17 years and not even knowing it, but it was very familiar to me because that was who my father was. He was controlling, manipulative, and, really desired, everything was about him. He desired everything was about him, and everybody was meant to honor and worship him and, listen to him and, all of those things. So I think that was the pieces that I didn't really understand until I started to unravel that. And then when I did that, that's when I said, okay, I need to break free from this. This is not okay. This isn't healthy for me. This isn't healthy for anyone. And I decided to kind of go on that venture and leave the relationship. And while I was doing that, I also was unraveling my religious doctrine, my religious beliefs, and recognizing that I was even in a cult, and not realizing what a cult was, and kind of understanding even how does a religion become a cult, and what does that mean? What is the structure, the framework for a cult? And that is when I was like, oh, okay, this is the truth of where I'm at right now. And so I just had to kind of break down and burn everything down to the ground, if you will, and start from the very beginning.
Okay. Start all over again.
All over again. Yeah, nothing was working.
Nothing was working, yeah. And I commend you for for doing that, for breaking free from that cult, because, to me, that is huge. And this is going to lead me to my next question. What was the hardest part about leaving the Jehovah's Witness community and the toxic relationships tied to it?
Oh, I think it was the loneliness. I think that recognizing, wait a second, if I leave, that means I'm losing all of my friendships I've known since I was young. And then also my family that was still in the cult. So, because they're, as Jehovah's Witnesses, they're told that if you leave and leave the organization, that basically you're no longer accepted, right? And you kind of have to set a really big boundary. And if you have a completely different belief system, which was me, where I didn't believe the beliefs anymore, then
Right.
you're an apostate. They call you an apostate. And so now you're basically evil and you've been basically possessed by Satan and his demons, and you are not allowed to be talked to. And so you really are completely abandoned. And I knew that was what was the path I was going, and I knew that was going to happen. But at the same time, there was a part of me that said, I can't fake this. I can't pretend to be something that I'm not, because it didn't resonate for me anymore. And I knew that there was so many of the beliefs inside of that organization that didn't make sense to me. I was really questioning so many things. And the more I questioned, the more I fell into the rabbit holes and realized what I had even been experiencing to begin with. So I think that was the hardest part, knowing that I was going to be very lonely for a period of time. And
Wow.
it was, I did feel very alone, but I really felt like, I think that I still believe in a higher power. I still believe in God. Even coming out from the other side, I was very angry for a long time. I felt like very betrayed by God when I left, because I was like, well, why would God do that to me? Like, if there is a God, why would he allow me to be in this religion that was a sham, And, but I realized it was nothing to do with what our higher power is. It is all to do with man's control and desire to use fear to keep people trapped in these systems. And I say it's the same as being in an abusive relationship, right? An abuser uses fear to control and manipulate you. And in a cult-like system or high control religion, it's the same thing. They use fear to control and manipulate you. And the model's the same. And so you just don't realize that you're existing in this model framework, if you will. And then once I broke free from all of that, I was like, okay, well, who am I going to be now? Because I don't even know who I am, because now I have no belief system. I have no relationship. I don't know if I believe in God anymore. And so that's when I had to really start to do the healing work on myself. And I started to, I dived into many, many religions, still never really figuring it out. And then I just kind of threw it all to the side and didn't want to look at it, because it was too overwhelming. I really needed to just focus on myself. I was very much in survival mode, trying to find my path and be a mom and take care of my kids. And that was where my focus was for that period of time, until I kind of rediscovered myself, if you will, spiritually.
That's great. I'm so, yeah. What a story. Wow. What a story. Because oftentimes, especially see, they conditioned you to believe that you were going to be abandoned and lonely and all this, and Satan didn't happen. You rediscovered that did not happen.
No, I felt like I actually really found who I truly was. And I also felt like I found real community, real, loving community. Whereas they pretended like they were the most loving community, the only loving community in the world. And I was like, well, actually they're the opposite of love, because they judge and they condemn people outside of the religion. And they say that everyone outside of that religion is not God's people. And right. And so I really found that, honestly, being in that cult, it was such a narcissistic cult, because they believed and taught that they were superior to other people. That was the foundational piece of it, that we were the only chosen people in the world that God decided to choose. And I thought to myself, after leaving that, I was like, oh, wow. We really thought we were something, didn't we? And really, I was like, how silly to think that God would just choose 6 million people or 7 million people, however big the Jehovah's Witnesses are, out of billions of people around the world. That's just crazy. Everybody is God's children in my viewpoint. And that's how you decide to live your life is truly, I think, the essence of spirituality. Is how do you show up at the grocery store? right? With somebody that you meet in the grocery store. Are you kind? Do you give them a warm smile? Like, I think, how do you show up in the moments when no one's looking? That's like, I think the real spiritual game, or the space of being of true love, or displaying love to other people. And I think religion has it all backwards. At least the majority of the religions, they're not really seeing people for who they are, and they're dividing people, and that's not love.
That's not love. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That is not love at all. We are all created in God's image.
Mm-hmm.
And God created the universe. So for me, it's my belief. And you and I was not a member of Jehovah's Witness, but the Greek Orthodox Church, same thing. You have to do these certain things, and it's very, very strict. I was brought up in a very strict Greek Orthodox environment, and I eventually left and went on my own spiritual journey. And after I turned to God and Jesus, and I got rebaptized this year. So I can certainly understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I totally get it. I totally understand. Like, absolutely. So, which leads me to my next question. So, what role did faith and spirituality play in your healing journey after leaving the religious cult?
Yeah. That's a big question. I would say, it really happened for me, kind of this other part of my awakening experience was when my then ex-husband died tragically from addiction. That was in 2020. The world was a mess. COVID was happening. Things were crazy. And, we were already kind of all in fear. And then he passed tragically. And the moment that happened for me, it was quite an awakening process. I knew that he had passed before he even passed. I had felt it the night before I'd gotten woken up. Almost like he kind of came to me that evening, if you will, like after he had already passed. And I kind of got I felt this uncomfortability and all of these things. And so I don't know what everybody's belief system is here, but like, I feel like, when we pass on, that we still have an energetic presence, and we still can kind of show up in other people's lives. And I didn't realize that was even a thing because of my former belief system, right? I just thought people died and they were I didn't know where they went. But for us, we were told they just basically went to sleep, or they were forever gone if they didn't favor. So that was a completely different experience. And when that happened, the grief that happened, that's why I wrote The Grief Monster that you talked about earlier in my children's book, about, a child losing his father. And that was really important piece of our journey, and watching my children grieve, but also my own grief. Even though we had a tumultuous relationship, I had known him since I was a young girl. And so there was still love there. There was still care. There was still a connection. And so when that experience happened, grief, I feel like it cracked me right open. And that grief, I had to really sit with in so many ways. And that was the experience when I started to be like, what does happen to us after we die? Like, I had been told years ago by Jehovah's Witnesses what I was told to believe, but I had never really discovered that for myself. What do I actually believe happens after we die?
Right.
And as the more that I explored, it was kind of crazy. People, synchronistically, things started happening and people started coming into my world. And a woman came to me and she said, "You should go watch Surviving Death. It's a Netflix documentary."
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
But it's basically about near-death experiences. And, there's countless of people that have had near-death experiences on this video. And they all say the same thing of kind of what happens in the near-death experience, right? They see either a loved one on the other side, or there's a greater presence, like God, angels, whatever. And I started to be like, well, if all these people have had this experience, there has to be some type of truth to this. But yet I was skeptical. And so I kind of prayed, if you will, not really a prayer, but I asked the universe to send me someone in real life to tell me this story, if it's the truth. And 3 days later, a client came into my office and told me her near-death experience. non-provoked. Didn't ask her for it. She told me this experience, and she goes, I don't really talk about this often because people don't really believe me. People often don't, they like scoff at me or say that I'm crazy. And I was like, well, you're not crazy because I actually asked for this. And then you came
right
by divine intervention. You sat here in my office and told me this story without me asking you this story. And so that was the moment where I just burst into tears because I was like, well, somebody was listening. Something was listening. And that's kind of when it started to really open me up to more and having that real spiritual connection with, whatever you resonate with, God, source, energy, universe, and knowing that it's all here for us and that we're very connected and really don't need, you don't really, for me, it's like, I don't even need to put a label onto it. It's this connection that we all have the ability to have. And for years, I was only told that the spiritual leaders in our organization could have that. And I didn't have that access. Only they could receive those messages from God. And then I was receiving them and I was like, oh, well, that was a lie.
That was a lie, right?
Right? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I think it was like that even began even more of the unraveling of my spiritual journey and really coming into what real connection is.
Oh yeah. Wow. That is deep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to uncover.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and then can you explain the writing? So let's talk about your book. Okay.
Yeah.
Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful. How did that writing become part of your own healing process?
Oh yeah. Honestly, I felt the calling to sit down and write the book. I do believe that was put into my heart for a reason. And the moment that I began, it was like everything just started to flow out of me. Like I would sit and I would just write for hours. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would write for hours. Like it was just pouring out of me. And as I did that experience, I started to see everything that had happened to me. Everything of all the experiences. I mean, you name it. I was like down in the pits, and I was doing the work, digging deep for that, and doing the work of the trauma that I had experienced.
Wow.
And having to, because it was like reliving it all over again as I wrote it out for everybody. But that was truly cathartic. It was truly healing because I could sit here and I could see these pieces of my story. I could put them out for display.
There you go.
Also could actually really look at them and start to heal them. So that was really powerful for me. And then I sat on the book for probably a good almost 2 years. I had finished the book and I was afraid to put it out into the world. I was just afraid. I was fearful of how people would view me. I was fearful of the judgment. I was fearful of really being raw and vulnerable because it's a very, very vulnerable story. I'm really putting it all out there. And so when I did that, and I finally, I kept getting the message that I needed to do this. I needed to release this book. And so finally I got over my fear and I said, okay, I'm just going to put it out here. I don't know why I need to do this, why this is so important. But the minute I stepped into that, I felt like I was so blessed from the universe because everything that needed to happen in my world just came in the minute that I released that book. It was like just blessings upon blessings. Like it was an abundance of like gratitude of being able to release that story finally and share it with the world because the world needed it. And the feedback I got, the people that dropped into my DMs that I didn't even know that said, oh my gosh, this book changed my life. This helped me see my own trauma. This helped me understand like why I am who I am and what I needed to heal. Like it was part of another awakening process for the people that pick it up.
That's great.
It's like what I say, it's like the people that choose to pick up this book, you're going to go on your own journey of discovery, and you're also going to find something within yourself. It's a mirror back to you, what you also need to heal within yourself. So if you're willing to do more inner work, if you're on that journey and you want to discover, then that book is going to help you.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Oh, and I'm sure the book will help many people. Many people.
Yeah, I hope so. That's
hope so too.
That's why it's in the world. So
there you go. There you go. There you go. Love it. Love it. So can you explain then how rapid transformational therapy and NLP have helped survivors access deeper healing in mind, body, and spirit? Because we talk about the shadow work and the inner work. Is that so important?
Yes. Yeah. So the shadow work, is really going into your subconscious, the deeper subconscious. And so RTT therapy is a mixture of cognitive behavioral therapy, NLP. So learning how your brain operates, but also hypnosis. So I'm taking people into hypnosis, right? And don't think it's not scary. We're taking you into the part of your brain that holds all your stories, that actually is your autopilot. It's your default mode network, is what it's called. And we're able to discover and pull out the weeds, if you will, that are continuing to clog up your life.
There you go. There you
right?
go.
And as we do that process, we can clean it all up and we rewire the brain for what you're actually wanting to have in your life, to get rid of old patterns, old beliefs that aren't serving you anymore. And really a lot of that is from childhood. Our brain is basically molded and shaped, and your belief system is created by the time you're 7. And so you have all of these imprints in there from since you were 7 years old. So if you had a traumatic childhood, guess what? You're still operating from that trauma. You're still operating from the patterns that you chose to survive. And there's no wrong in that. It's the true nature of who we are. It's how our brain operates. And so I really teach people these things and help them rewire the brain, but also to recognize where your nervous system is at, especially if you've been abused, especially if you've had childhood trauma, just to help you regulate so much and get so safe that now it's like a deeper layer of healing that you can kind of go through.
Right.
You are the creator of your life. So this is how you can tap into that power, is by learning how the mind works.
Exactly. It's activating that reticular activating system to rewire your brain. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So the raw is exactly as you call it, as you talk about that, it's really being able to help you, what we focus on, we get more of.
There you go. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. If your RAS, your reticular activating system is focused on negativity, or I'm in suffering, or I'm just depressed, or nothing ever good happens to me, or you have all of these, really heavy stories. Well, that is what you're going to get more of, because that beautiful part of your brain, it helps you get what you want. And so it's really important about kind of rewiring the brain. Okay, well, how do I actually want to show up in every day? I always tell people a great trick to even start with today is, when you wake up in the day, set an intention, set that intention for the day. And even when something goes awry, maybe your kid's screaming and he's yelling, or maybe something happened, or you're late, or whatever it is, you can always go back into that intention and focus on that intention. And it kind of helps you get back on track, right? You don't go too far down like the negative train or whatever you're about ready to go on.
Rabbit hole, I call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That negative train, the rabbit hole.
Exactly. Yeah. I really, really love, because I suffered severely with anxiety, lots of PTSD, so much complex trauma from such years of being in fear, and being really, really severely abused. And so the brain can be your worst enemy or your best friend.
There you go. But
it's really hard sometimes to get through these things. And so sometimes, I can be talking about this, but if you don't have someone to help support you and guide you through this, I know I couldn't do it alone. I needed support. I needed help because my brain, when I was in my panic or when in my fear, I felt like my brain was on fire and I couldn't get out of it.
Wow.
Right. It was so hard when those triggers happen and that feeling of fear comes in. It's, you need that support. You need people to help you kind of like make this a happier place, because you have to live here all the time.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
absolutely.
Not make this a happier place, just like you want to make your body feel good, right? Like nobody wants to feel tired and like wake up feeling like terrible every morning and your bones are aching and your joints are, like inflamed and you're just can barely move. Like no one wants to live a life like that. You want to feel good in your body. You want to wake up energized and excited for the day and happy and, be able to move your body. Well, the same thing with your brain. You just can't see it, right? It's in here, but at the same time, you want your brain to be operating the best that you can. So why not learn how to do that? Why not actually remove all the stuff that's no longer serving you and truly really begin to live a more authentic and thriving life?
Absolutely. Because guess what? We deserve to live that life. Absolutely. Like for me, when I wake up in the morning, I feel grateful. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to get up early. Like people say, you get up early? I'm like, yeah. This is,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no waking codes in my body. I feel I'm awake, I'm alive, and I'm ready to go. And I'm like you. I set my intention for the day, and I do my meditation, and I journal, and that gets me going. Then I really get excited. Like one of my mentors, I remember he says a lot. He goes, he's excited about life. And he's 65 and he's doing something new every single day. I mean, that's a huge blessing.
Yes. Well, and they say like, the older you get, the more that you try new things, you create those new neural brain pathways.
Yeah, right.
So you're continuing to grow and your mind is continuing to grow. And that helps keep you young and feeling young, right? And your body says, oh, okay, well, we're not just going to go lay down and die. We still want to go and experience and discover and all of those things. That's why you see some people when they're like in their 80s and they're still like running miles and you're just like,
here, you should see it here.
Yeah.
No. They go out, they do things, exercise. And
that's the way to live. Yeah. To truly, really thrive. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I remember, I know that you had talked about that you created the Grief Monster to help children process loss. So why was that so important for you? And how has that impacted families?
So that was really important for me because when my ex died, and I saw that my children obviously were struggling with their grief, I noticed there wasn't, my youngest was very young. So my oldest one, he understood death a little bit more. And even though it was hard for him to really sit with, my youngest one was even more like confused by it, right? He never had anybody die in the family. He wasn't really understanding in the experience. He was little and there was not a lot of books on grief. And I said, wow, we really need to teach kids about grief and that it's okay to like process this grief. And actually you should let yourself just sit with your grief. Like this is okay. You don't have to suppress your tears. That this is an okay thing to do. And that's why I wrote the book. I wanted children to be able to understand their own emotional intelligence. That I wanted them to understand that, grief is a part of life. And when these really big things happen, that they don't have to be strong for anybody else, that they're allowed to just really fully feel their feelings. And so that's really what the book is for. And this has helped families all over the world. This has helped people have put this in therapist office. People have put this in hospitals. I've had adults reach out to me and said they've given it to other adults that have lost others because it helped them like just to engage their own inner child. Seeing this little grief monster and being able to connect with your grief in a different way. And so that was a gift in itself. So that really lit me up because I was like, okay, well, I had this on my heart to write this and I wrote it for a reason and it's really trickled out into the world and created a ripple effect. So I'm very, very happy about that.
That's great. That's great. Especially in these times that we're living in.
We need it.
We need it. We need it today. That's great. I'm very happy to hear that. That's awesome. And you're doing so much for children and feel so happy about that. So what inspired you now to launch the Cult Diaries podcast, and what conversations are you hoping to bring to light?
So I actually launched that right after I launched my book last year, or this year, I guess I should say in March. I have another podcast called Goddess Rising. That's really for the women on the healing journey after abuse and to really, you know, discovery, self-development, all that fun stuff. But Cult Diaries was kind of important to me too, because I don't think we talk enough about religious trauma. I think it's very like hush hush. It's starting to come out a lot more now, but you know, there's not a lot of people that really like talk about that space, you know, and now we're starting to realize how much this religious trauma has affected us as a society, right? How it's suppressed so many people, especially women, right? With the patriarchy experience of what religion has really tried to do, you know, suppressing women and their voice and not really having a place, and the men being in the hierarchy and really thinking that they're the only one access to God, and all of these experiences, and how it's really quieted women's divine feminine, right? Where women are actually so much a channel into really divinity. You know, they really have this ability and this connection, sometimes even more. They have more intuition than a man does, you know, at times, you know, like we're really very connected that way with it because we are the nurturers, right? We are the mother, if you will. Like, so we have this innately within us. And so when we're really in our power, which I believe that religion tried to strip away from women, we are very powerful and we don't really realize that. And so that that's why we've gotten stuck in abusive relationships to begin with, right? We thought that we were inferior.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. We've been conditioned to believe, oh yeah, we're, you know, the doormat and inferior.
Yeah. And I want to have these conversations, and that's why I called it Cult Diaries, because it's these conversations of people that have, you know, they've left really high control religions or cult-like systems that are really harmful, right? Because I do believe religion serves a purpose. There are religions out there that, you know, give people hope, and people need these type of places. I'm not saying anything against religion. I'm talking about the religious pieces that have harmed people, right? That have made people fearful, that have made people think that God is this like punishing, angry, judgmental God, right? That's going to destroy them. Like, this is the stuff where I'm talking that has actually harmed people. And I want to have these conversations because there are millions of people that have been affected by this. And they're really waking up to see how that has affected them. You know, there's people that are leaving, like, I feel like probably by the hundreds a day of Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, people are waking up. Can't help. In the information age, there's so much information out there, even though they tell you can't watch anything or listen to anything else. They try to, like, you know, make sure that you're only in their information bubble. Now it's like, it's so out there, like how it's impossible, right? People are talking.
Impossible, absolutely.
People are talking on the Instagram, TikTok. It's why they're trying to be like, you shouldn't be on social media. Like, you shouldn't go to college. Like, before it was like, they couldn't go to college. Like, they really downplayed going to college. They didn't want people to go to college. And I think people are now speaking up about this. And now they're like, okay, it's okay if you go to college. They're just trying to control people so much, and now
there you go.
They're losing so many people, so they're trying to, like, they're grasping for straws, I think, at this point. But it's more about the fact that, you know, these conversations need to be had. We don't like to talk about it. We like to kind of avoid talking about things that are uncomfortable as a human race, right? We want to, like, patch it up and not look at the horrible things that are going on in the world. But it's really important for us to look at these things because this is where humanity is at. And until we speak up and use our voice, until we express ourselves, we're not saying what needs to be said, right? Needs to be said is what needs to change. Our consciousness needs to change. We need to view people differently, right? We need to look at people with love and acceptance. And if you believe differently than I do, that's okay. Okay, as long as you're not harming anybody, then I'm okay with the way you believe, because that's your belief. And letting people be who they are.
I agree. Let people be and who they are, and let them, you know, let them express themselves without harming anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah, you have a choice to either listen to that person or not listen to that person. So if you don't resonate with them, then you don't need to listen to them. But it doesn't mean that you have to be hateful or be angry or be, or like, as we just recently saw last week, be killed for it, right? Like you should be able to say your belief. And if you don't agree with that person, then you should be able to say, you know what, I get to turn you off. I don't need to, right? Like, but why does it have to become this thing where there's hate and there's, you know, we're all like bickering at each other back and forth because no, you shouldn't believe that way. And this is the reason why. Like everybody's trying to prove that they're right.
Exactly. It almost seems that they want, I mean, yes, they want to be heard, but they want to prove that they're right. And then they're putting down the other person and calling them names. And that infuriates me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not right. And it's not like what true connection or true divinity or true love really is. Like if you call yourself a spiritual person, call yourself even a religious person, well, how are you treating your fellow neighbor? How are you treating the person on the street, or how the person on the street is that believes differently than you?
Exactly.
And those are the things I think that people need to look at. And it's really I think we've overcomplicated it as humans. It's really simple. It's so simple to be able to accept someone for who they are. And if you don't like that, well, you're entitled to that. You're entitled to not like it, but you don't need your opinion. No one cares about your opinion. You don't
at the end of the day, no one's listening.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no one is listening. That's it.
Yeah. It's just so simple to be just like a very calm, peaceful human being. But yet that's just not what's going on as we see this in our reality right now. There's just so much turmoil, and it's up to everybody to choose to do different.
Exactly. Absolutely. Especially like we're talking about now with Charlie Kirk, and you know, it was a wake-up call. To me, it was an awakening. And but it's how people handle it. It's, you know, we don't need to resort to violence. It just seems like there's too much of that going on. Spiritual warfare. There's just so much spiritual warfare going on.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's, you know, again, I have no opinion on what happened last week, other than the fact that I see it as don't be harmful to other people. Right?
Thank you.
You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to express your truth. I mean, we are allowed to express our truth. That's who we are. We're meant to be in our authenticity, right? In expressing ourselves. That's who we are meant to be. But also remembering that we are, on some level, we're trying to just remember that we're all connected. Like we're all connected. And I think when we can actually realize that, we can all get along. We can see, you know, that person believes in a different type of God than me, and I can accept that person.
Right. You can accept that person. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's probably been the biggest gift of leaving a cult-like system, because I come from such a judgmental place, right? Because in that cult-like system, we were taught that we were meant to judge the people on the outside that were in the other religions. Like they were bad, they were wrong, and we were right. So it's very just like politics, right? Those people are wrong and we're right.
Exactly.
The left right thing. It's the same thing in the religious piece. And that's what we were taught in that religion, was to believe that. And so when I was in the religion, I was so judgmental. I looked down upon those people in that other belief system. Truly. I mean, I can be completely humble in saying that was who I was then.
Wow.
Don't like that about myself. I didn't like that I was like that. But again, I was taught that. I was conditioned and programmed to believe that's who I was supposed to be, right? And I think that is often what's happening in politics. We're conditioned and programmed to look at people that way. Like, you're right, I'm wrong, vice versa, right? And that is pitting people up against each other and causing that division. And that's exactly what it did when I was in that religion, because I we were told also we couldn't associate with anybody outside of the religion because they were wrong. They were bad. Only the people on the inside. And so that again is just, using that ability to think that we're superior. And so it's the same thing with anybody in their own belief system. If you think you're more superior than the other person, then you might want to reflect on yourself and be like, is this true?
Right, exactly.
I'm not coming from a place of judgment. And how is that, judgment is not a good emotion to feel. And judgment is not no one wants to feel judged, right? We all hate being perceived wrongly. So why would we reflect that to someone else, right? Why would we do that to someone else? And I think that's really what was happening when I was in that religion. And as I started to heal that part of myself, I started to see, and then I started to go and, discover other religions and look at how people, what their culture was and how they, perform their religious practices and stuff. And I was very curious. And I started to see that there is a common thread between all religions. There's just a common thread to all of them, right? And I think there's some truth in all of the religions too, even the cult-like systems, right? I think there's just a thread of truth in all of them. And I started to see that I don't need to judge anybody else for their religious system.
Right, exactly.
I don't think it's almost like I can look at the Jehovah's Witnesses and I can see there's just where that's just what they believe. And those people inside of it don't know any better because I didn't know any better.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know any better. And until you figure that out for yourself, you may stay in that space. You may stay trapped in that part of this game, if you will, or you may break free. And when you do, what's on the other side for you could be even more freeing and enlightening and exciting for you, because now you're no longer being controlled. Now you get to make your own decisions. You get to make your own belief system and what you choose to believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, not what you're told to believe.
Right. Not what you're told. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you shed light on this. I'm so glad that you broke the silence on this.
Yeah, so thank you for letting me share that. That was a lot. I know. I'm sorry.
It was a lot.
I think I had a lot to just download there. My goodness gracious.
I know. No, I love having you here. This is a great conversation. So for women listening right now who feel trapped in silence or shame, what's the first step that they can take toward reclaiming their voice?
Yeah, that's such a hard piece, because when we've been beaten down, maybe physically and mentally so much, it's kind of scary to even realize that you can have a voice. I know for me, I was so afraid. I was so afraid to have a voice. I was afraid to speak up. Even after I left the relationship, I was afraid to speak. I was afraid to speak my needs. I was afraid to ask for help. I felt like a very afraid little girl, if you will. That's where I was, I think the first piece of this is realizing that you matter. You matter. Because in those type of relationships and those type of systems, you don't believe that you matter. You don't believe that you're important.
Right, exactly.
The abuser is the most important person. And now when you're on the other side, remembering that you actually matter. And if you matter, that actually means that you get to have a say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very simple. You matter and you get to have a say. And you just start living your life that way, and you start practicing it maybe in small little ways. Maybe it's something that comes up and someone, really upsets you or triggers you or kind of pushes your buttons, if you will, your boundaries. And you decide, instead of, swallowing it down and suppressing it or just taking it, you decide to say something. You decide to stand up for yourself. Exactly. You just take that first action step of doing something different than you've ever done before. And then the more that you do that, the more you build upon that. And pretty soon it's just going to be who you are. Pretty soon, it's just going to be who you are. You always have a voice, and your voice matters, and you get to speak out because you deserve to have a voice, and you operate from that place instead of the other place where you don't believe that you get to have a voice.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. I love that. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, believe it or not. I'm loving this conversation that we're having. So if you could leave our listeners with one message of hope, what would that be?
I would say that if you change your thoughts, you change your reality. So know that there is always possibility, and that anything is possible, and that your life can change, and you can actually have exactly what you desire. I think that we both are living proof of being able to come out the other side and enjoy life in a different way and thrive and have everything that we need and want in our lives, right? And still achieving that and learning and growing, and just knowing that you are this human being that has the capability to do that. You can go through the darkest of times, but you also can move through those things, and you can get out on the other side and see things that you wouldn't even believe come into your life.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And where can people reach you?
So my website, lifecoachinggoddess.com, and then on all the socials, I am Life Coaching Goddess, so they can reach me there as well.
Okay, great. And we will have all the links posted in the show notes on Spotify and Apple, and also on YouTube. So this podcast episode is coming to a close, and I want to thank Brooke for being such an amazing sister and an amazing guest, just bringing light on so many issues, on your vision, and also a little bit, on the events that happened last week. I'm so glad that you were here to amplify your voice, and that's what my podcast is all about. It's all about empowering women to amplify their voices and share their real life stories of overcoming domestic violence, domestic abuse, narcissistic abuse. So please don't forget to like and subscribe to my podcast on Spotify, Apple, and all your streaming services. And also please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And if you would like to subscribe to my newsletter and book a breakthrough call, please go to my website at letsbreakthesilence.com. So we're going to end this live right now. This will be repurposed and it will be uploaded very soon. And please stay in the green room for 5 minutes, Brooke. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.